Welcome to the Kentucky Line. I'm Matt.
And I'm Clifton, and so coming to you from one of our first, I guess it's our second off-season episode, where the transfer portal is now in full swing. And I guess before we get into all of that, Matt, let's just kind of a breakdown. So far, the only people Cats have coming back: Malachi Marino, Cam Williams, Trent Noah, Reese Potter. We don't know yet on Braden Hawthorne. And I guess the only surprise so far, I think, for most people is probably Colin Chandler. So before we get into who's coming, who's visiting, all that good stuff, what's just some thoughts on Chandler deciding to go home?
Uh, well, I think that it was a surprise mainly because uh, most people thought he was going to be here, including me. But once I heard kind of the financial situation that apparently what he was asking for. Now, I know the numbers that we hear. I don't know how accurate all of them are,
Right.
but he was all BYU obviously asked or offered him more money than what UK is going to pay him,
Yeah.
and I hate to see him go because I really do think he'd be an integral part of the team next year, but we can't pay him uh, to be our second best player next year or
No.
whatever.
No, I mean, if the number that's being floated, like you said, those probably aren't 100% true, but let's just assume they're all scaled to where, they kind of represent the same percentage of what your total payroll is going to be. The number being floated is 3.2 million, and that's
Right.
just, to me, that's a number that you're going to pay a guy that's proven it. Chandler is somebody I think we all hoped would get to that all conference level, and I think he can. But I don't think you can pay that for a guy you're hoping takes a leap forward. It's kind of the payoff once you've already done it.
Yeah, he did a lot of good things for us last year. Uh, Shot the ball well. I mean, he was over 40% 3-point shooter on the season,
Mm-hmm.
and clutch, hit some big shots that won some games, got some steals. I mean, he did a lot of good things, and I honestly hate to see him go,
Yeah.
but it's just not worth. To me, we can make that. He's not so good that I don't think we can get somebody comparable for less money.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. And it's just, you said it, with that number, you need him to be one of your top players, top two players. And to me, that's probably a number to me that makes sense for probably what they paid like Owe last year.
Yeah,
And Owe was the preseason SEC player of the
and he
year. And,
delivered.
and
And
Chandler wasn't going to be that.
yeah, and Owe delivered, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I know the first part of the season, I think we were all frustrated with Owe and how he was playing. It seemed like his effort didn't seem there. But man, the SEC season comes along, and he carried this team. And so, I don't know that Chandler can be somebody like that.
No.
I'm not sure. He's a very good role player. Can make shots. He can do a lot of good things, but we've got to have. I would rather not give him $3.2 million, have $3.2 million extra in our pocket, and go out and grab maybe a top 3 point guard in the portal, give
Yep.
them an extra million, um, give Stokes an extra million, whatever.
Yep.
But I hate, like I said, hate to see him go, but I get it, and I think it was the right decision.
Okay. So with the four we have coming back, just in my mind, I think if Mark Pope is building his ideal team, the only starter we have coming back is probably Malachi Marino. Uh, do, the only other one would possibly be Cam Williams. Do you think he wants to build a team where Cam Williams starting, or do you think he's that sixth, seventh man?
Well, I think it all depends on who we can get. If you remember, Cam was starting
Yeah.
before he got hurt last year. Now, I realize we didn't have our full roster,
Mm-hmm.
but he was coming along and playing really well. And I mean, I could see Cam starting depending on what happens with the rest of the class.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see him starting at the 3,
Yeah, I
no
could too.
doubt, depending on who we get. Now, if we get Stokes, that's a different story. But I could see him, and even I think they had Cam starting at the 4, didn't they?
Yeah.
That's,
That's where I think Cam is kind of a luxury. I think ideally, if everything goes perfect, which so far at no time in Mark Pope's tenure has it done that. But if everything goes perfect, I think you have Cam as that first or second guy off the bench that can really be a backup if you shift guys around either the 2, 3, or 4 spot because
yes,
he's so
exactly.
versatile. And then if you do miss on your top targets at either the 3 or the 4 spot, then Cam can fill that role either one, and you don't feel like it's a huge drop off that's just crushing you.
Yeah, and I tell you, and if you look at it this way, if Cam Williams takes a leap and takes a step in his game, if he steps his game up from last year to this year, he's got a full summer to work out,
Mm-hmm.
to get better. If he takes a significant jump in his game, which I think he can do,
I do too.
um, then if we have somebody like that as our sixth man, then I'll just tell you we're going to be in good shape.
Yeah, 100%. I think, honestly, if you just look at last year's team, which, isn't the standard at Kentucky, but I think Cam Williams may have the highest ceiling of anybody that was on that team.
Yeah, and he did a lot of good things. And I think he's underrated defensive player.
Mm-hmm.
He's athletic. I think for Cam, a lot of times his biggest issue, it seemed to me, was almost staying engaged the whole time. I felt like sometimes he just
Mm-hmm.
would get a little lackadaisical, but he's got all the tools. And like I said, if he takes a step up, a significant step up, and I think he's got that potential. Listen, man, he's if he starts the year next year like he was coming along, making shots like he was, man, that's a weapon.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and get into some of the targets, and I guess the big news that's kind of broke this afternoon, kind of as we was watching the end of the Masters, is that yesterday it was reported Tyron Stokes is going to visit starting tonight and through Monday, coming on an unofficial visit, and his own words pretty much said they have a different coaching staff. Well, the only thing that's different is Mo Williams is there now, which tells me that was a hire that was a direct connection to Stokes. That
Yep.
was somebody that I think is going to pay off immediately in this transfer portal class. So Tyron Stokes is coming, but I guess to me, what's almost me equally as big news, if not bigger, is Rob Wright, the point guard from BYU. 19 points a game, 40% plus 3-point shooter, and is really that star point guard that I think you need in today's game. He's coming along for the visit, and then just in the last 30 minutes, there's kind of rumors that there may be a third visitor tomorrow, and the early kind of chatter online is that it could be Donnie Freeman. That's the power forward from Syracuse. That's not been, reported officially yet, just kind of some chatter. But if that's the case, that's probably targets 1, 2, and 3 in the portal for Kentucky.
Well, I'll tell you, I didn't hear about Donnie Freeman. I know Donnie Freeman's on our radar. So obviously, if he comes on a visit, that's a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can only visit so many schools. So I feel like if you're making a visit, you've narrowed your list
Yeah,
down.
they're a
So
finalist.
yeah. So first of all, Rob Wright, he's a stud.
Yep.
I watched him play a lot last year, and that guy can play.
Yep.
And so he would. I mean, if I feel like we need to do whatever we can do to get a guy like that. And if we have a chance at Stokes, and I feel like we do. I mean, why is he coming?
Yeah.
I mean, I know we have a different coaching staff, but I feel like if he wasn't strongly considering us, he wouldn't even bother.
No, I think ultimately this comes down to to Nike is kind of, you know, they've probably are helping here, which is legal now. And I think the report I read online said there were some kind of holdups with Adidas not being thrilled that he was a Nike guy, and that Kansas thought that would be a little bit of a smoother process. But for whatever reason, you know, he's wanted to go to Kansas, just like he wanted to go to Kentucky in the fall, and there's some reason he didn't. So if just my gut feeling says right now the Kentucky is probably the leader for Stokes, or I don't know if you want to say leader, but probably the most likely to land him just with the Nike connection. And then Jeff Goodman, Field of 68, he put out there just point blank, Rob Wright, Kentucky's the leader. So in all realistically, 24 hours from now, you could have your top two players signed.
Well, you know, I wasn't sure if Zoom Diallo would having him come would help in getting Stokes, because I know they were high school teammates.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking, well, maybe that's part of it. But listen, if we can get Rob Wright and Stokes, that's two. No, we don't have to hear anybody talking about, well, you need to go out and get this. Kentucky needs to go out and get it some studs. Well, you've got two of them.
You've got two.
You've got two of them.
Yep.
And that's not including who else you can get. If you get and if you get Donnie Freeman, well, you've got three.
Yeah, I think you're looking at. I think Stokes and Rob Wright are guys that could be like preseason All-American type players.
Yeah.
And then when you're talking like Freeman, you know, to me he's like probably all conference at the worst, like he was in the ACC last year. And you got to think if he takes a step forward, there's a lot of potential there. And you mentioned another name, Zoom Diallo. He's probably, to me, the guy that I would say Kentucky's second point guard option behind Rob Wright, but he may be another starter in that shooting guard role. And I almost feel like Diallo, he becomes more of an option if Stokes commits.
Right. I mean, definitely. I mean, here's the thing. The one position I think that we don't really have is the two guard.
Yep.
You know, who's going to be our two? Who's going to be our shooter, our shooting guard? If we get Rob Wright, he can get his own shot. I mean, that guy can get about anywhere he wants to on the court. And then if we get Stokes, he can get his own shot.
Yep.
But which would be nice if we could get a two guard that's, you know, somebody that's about, you know, shoots, you know, 42% from the 3-point line, that type of guy. Because honestly, you don't have to have a total stud at the two if you get those other guys.
If you're just serviceable on defense, and I think that probably shows. Just
you know
looking at the
who
targets,
would be perfect?
Who?
Colin Chandler.
Well, and that's what I was getting ready to say. I think just if you look at the board that Kentucky's put together, there's a glaring hole there at two guard, and I think it's because Mark Pope had penciled in Chandler coming back. I think he felt like they probably had a strong offer and of what he was worth, or they felt he was worth, and he just got an offer that he couldn't pass up.
Yeah.
And you know, and I don't blame the guy. You know, the NBA is not a sure thing for anybody. I think he's got the potential to play there, but you know, it's not 100% certain. So if that's even close to accurate, I mean, $3.2 million is more than you can make in the rest of your life.
Yeah, if BYU's offering him $3.2 million, then he should take it.
You should take it
because I don't think Kentucky would maybe. I think Kentucky would pay him maybe 1.5 to 2 at the most.
That's what I would assume.
So you know, and I think that's fair personally.
Yeah, I do too. And I think when you look at the numbers, kind of a wing, like a point guard, the market says about anywhere from 2 to 4 million for a top point guard. A wing player, it's like 1 to 2. I think Chandler is more that wing type role, and so I think that puts him, and that's top end talent. I don't know if anybody would argue Chandler's one of the top, 10 twos in the country, but I think he's got the potential to get there, but he's not done it yet.
Yeah, and so I think we'll be able to find a serviceable guy at the 2 once it's all said and done. Now Diallo, now he's a point guard. If I recall, I mean he played point guard for Washington, didn't he?
He is, but now he's a kind of a high 30, well, probably low 30s 3-point shooter, but he's kind of a combo guard. He's 6'4", so
Okay,
you could play him and Rob Wright together with how well
definitely,
Wright shoots the ball.
definitely,
Uh,
yeah,
and so the way I see it, if Wright commits, I think Zoom Diallo becomes probably more likely to commit and play that off ball role, and then also be kind of a backup point guard if Tyron Stokes commits. And if not, I think you're Rob Wright, and then from there you have to start looking for that next kind of stud. I think Donnie Freeman, I think he could be that, but I think in a perfect world he's probably your third best player.
right,
Um,
yeah,
the kid that's intriguing, I think, is Afidelis from Virginia Tech. I mean, last year he played point guard for Virginia Tech, but in my mind, I kind of have him at the 1 through 3 spots, plug and play, because he's 6'9".
right,
But he shoots the ball very efficient. I don't know how great of an athlete he is, but he shoots the ball good. He handles the ball good. And if you can play point guard in ACC at 6'9", I think there's a spot on our team for you.
yeah, and that's somebody that you could play even uh, at 6'9". You can even play at the 4.
Yeah, you could.
Now, at times, I don't know defensively that might would kill you in
Yeah,
the
kind of
SEC
small.
depending on him, but at 6'9", you you can play if you can handle the ball and shoot it at 6'9". You can play about any position,
Yep.
and so yeah, that would be huge.
And then there was and I'm just going to kind of go through some of these kind of quick, starting with our guards. There was a report today, Kentucky reached out to B.J. Davis, and it strictly said for a backup point guard role. He's from San Diego State. He averaged almost 11 points a game, 4 assists, shot the ball well, but a lockdown defender, and that was as a backup at San Diego State. So if you can get similar production, a kind of a senior come in to be that backup point guard that averaged double figures, to me that's perfect. Like if you don't get a Zoom Diallo or the kid from Virginia Tech to come in and be that backup point guard, which I think Pope has to have this year. You can't go into another season with one point guard.
No, no, and we've got to have depth, but we've got to spend the money on the studs and hope to get some serviceable people. We can't pay 12 guys $1 million, or 2 million, 12 guys $2 million or whatever.
Yeah, I think last year Pope kind of, I don't know, I just think the way he evaluated talent and the price he paid certain guys and then denting others, I just think if you look at things, there were probably guys you could have not signed and maybe put stronger offers toward like a Caleb Wilson or Nate Amin, who we were there at the end for, and really changed the way this team looked last year.
Yeah, yeah,
And then the other name I put on our list is Terrence Hill Jr. He's a point guard for VCU, really good. To me, he becomes that maybe starting point guard if Rob Wright or Zoom Diallo doesn't come. He's starting caliber, I think, but I think he's probably like a half notch down from those guys. Probably a top 10 point guard in the class. But if you're looking for a stud at point guard, it's probably the bottom of where you want to be. I
yeah,
almost look at him like the Thomas kid that was from LSU that I think ended up signing with Houston. He's probably not at the top end, but he would be a step down. But I think he's just kind of there in their back pocket as somebody they'll recruit a little heavier if their first options fall through.
yeah. And I saw, and there aren't they taking a look at that guard from Colgate?
Yep.
Um,
And he's kind of a combo guard too, from
Kind of
my
a combo
understanding.
to
Yeah.
play a backup role.
Yeah. He's probably, I think they would want him probably to like back up the 1 and 2. But I don't think that the dream scenario, he's not starting it either. I think he's like a 6'3" kid.
Yeah, right.
And then so I think small forward is kind of Tyron Stokes or bust at this point. I've not really saw anybody. I think they've let some of the others, like the Riley kid from San Francisco, and I think Myers or something. He went to Providence, and the Dink Pate, and I think all that shows they're sort of confident in Stokes because there are no other names there that are options. then that gets you to power forward. We've talked about Donnie Freeman at Syracuse. I hope he's the third visitor tomorrow. But there are two other names there that I think are really intriguing. The first one, he's not coming to be a backup. I don't know if Kentucky's reached out. I assume they would. My gut says he's going to stay in the draft, but he did enter the transfer portal for some reason. And if he's picked, I think most projections have him like at 20th right now. And I would assume Kentucky could probably, for 1 year, pay better than the 20th spot in the draft. But Milan Momcilovic from Iowa State, he's the power forward that led the nation in three-point shooting, killed Kentucky, hit the kind of the dagger
Yeah.
shots. So to me, even more than Freeman, he's a guy that was built to play under Pope's system, what we saw year one.
Yeah.
But I think if you could find a way to get him, Freeman, or even the St. Mary's kid, the Maracas, or whatever how it's pronounced, I think all those are guys that could thrive at that 4 spot.
Yeah. Well, that guy from Iowa State, I think, was the best shooter in the country.
He was, I
Uh,
think, a nearly 50% shooter.
so I mean, you're talking, you get a guy like that, because here's the thing: you get a guy like that with playmakers like Rob Wright and Stokes. I mean,
You're going to have a
that
lot of
that
open
that
shots.
opens up a lot of shots for a guy like that. So, um, yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot of options out there, and we've just got to land a couple of these guys. I mean, we just have to.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, 24 hours from now, the picture is going to be a lot clearer. And I was looking at one of Matt Jones' tweets, and he sent out, and he said pretty much there's going to be a lot more visitors this week, like Tuesday and Wednesday. But who Kentucky decides to bring in on the visit is going to depend on who commits tomorrow. If Stokes and Wright commit, it's probably going to look different than that visitor list than if they don't.
Right.
Because you probably are going to guys that are a little bit lower priced if you don't have to, if you're spending the bulk of your money on those two guys, which is what I would do. All right.
Absolutely.
So one last thing here before we wrap up the basketball talk. If when you're building a roster, if you were the GM of one of these college teams, what would kind of be your goal? What would be your blueprint for not necessarily specific names, but what would be your mindset for how you wanted to build a team?
Well, I was listening to they were talking about Dusty May and kind of Michigan and maybe Florida's blueprint of they went with kind of size and defense, type deal. And then I was listening to Dan Hurley had said, and this is I'm saying this to just a preface. This is how I would build my team.
Right.
Is what Dan Hurley said, which was he's recruiting offense and offensive guys that are willing to play defense, and that's how I feel about it. To me, I want the best offensive guys I can get, and because if you can find guys that can score, then most of the time defense is just effort, and then you have guys that are willing to lay it on the line on defense. I personally want to have as good of offensive guys as I can. Now, obviously, you've got to have size and the right positions, but I lean more rather than getting a Diabate for example at the 4. I would have gone for somebody that's more of a offensive threat.
Yeah.
Personally.
I think especially like if you have a system like Pope's. I've thought about this quite a bit over the last couple of days as we've been traveling things and had some time to just sit and think. I think if I was given a budget, whatever that budget is, I'm going to take probably 60 to 70%, and I'm going to put across my top 3 players. I want guys that I think on any given night could be one of the top, 15 players in the country. And I'm going to do everything I can to get 3 guys like that. I think one has to be a point guard.
Yeah,
I think
for sure.
one has to be a big, either at that
Yep,
4 or 5 spot,
yep.
and then the other could really be any of the other three positions. But I think you have to have a solid big in today's game, and you have to have a point guard.
And you have to, and for me, you have to have those two, and then for me, you've got to have kind of a knockdown
Shooter.
shooter.
And then I think with my next probably up to like 95% of my money, I'm gonna spend on positions 4 through 7 to fill out those other two starting spots. And I want to have, like, as a backup, I want like a combo guard who can be a serviceable backup point guard, and a kind of a combo big that could play small ball 5 or the 4 spot easily, and maybe even down to 3 if you had to. But guys that can play backup multiple positions. But in those 4 spots, I want guys that are kind of specialists, knockdown shooters, elite defenders, big time rebounders. I want, that are as good as anybody in the country at least doing one thing, and are not going to kill you everywhere else. And then I think everybody else on the team, you can get guys that are going to be your eighth, ninth, 10th man all the way down for a bargain, essentially, that are
Yeah,
at least serviceable. And I think that's how I would do it, and really prioritize. And I think so far, I think that's what Pope has done. If you just look Wright, Stokes, and then either Freeman or Marino, I think Marino is someone they want to take that next step and be an all-conference type center. I think he has it in him. He's took a big jump from high school to year one.
oh
Does
yeah,
he take that again? And if he does, I think he's right there being that third stud. If not, then I think that's where Freeman or the kid from Virginia Tech, or whoever, could come in and be that third option. But Stokes and Wright alone, to me, are guys that could be first team All American next year. So if you have just two of those, you're worlds better than you were last year.
yeah, yeah. That's exactly right. And you've got all the pieces. If you get Stokes right and Moreno, because I think Moreno is going to work on. I think what he needs is to get stronger and and maybe get stronger, but lose about 10 to
Yeah.
15 pounds.
Yeah, just
Get a
turn some of
little
that to
quicker.
muscle.
Yeah, just get a little quicker, and
And to
I
me, it's
think
his hands as much as anything. If just if his hands get stronger,
yeah,
it's gonna be make a world of difference for that kid.
yeah, and I think because of him being 7 feet tall, and he showed um, you know shades of this throughout the year where he can kind of get the ball and sh- shoot that little baby hook, over his left shoulder, and he sometimes he did it over his right with his
Mm-hmm.
left hand. But if he can get to where he can make that little jump hook, baby hook, consistently, I mean, because that you can't really block that shot,
No.
and he's going to be, I think, really a good player for us, and yeah, I mean, I think you've got all you need, really,
Yep.
to be a to so
All right. Well, before we close out, I do think we need to at least mention the spring game is next week, and I'm sure we'll have an episode this week because I can't imagine getting through this week without some clarity on the basketball roster. So I'm sure we'll record midweek but there is the spring game. But while we've been talking recruiting, Kentucky's on a roll football wise. Signed a
yeah,
4-star defensive lineman yesterday. Had several defensive commits, but then today, the number 2 quarterback in America commits to Kentucky, a top 35 player in the nation, regardless of position. And I think probably outside of Tim Couch, the highest rated quarterback Kentucky's ever signed.
yeah,
And it's a long way to signing day, but it seems like Stein really has some momentum on the recruiting front. And he's kind of one of those, kind of like we were talking basketball, you pay guys that can make a difference. And then you can fill in the gaps with everybody else, but you want difference makers. And so far, I think that's what he's done. And so I'm looking forward to seeing this football team next weekend.
yeah. Listen, I'm excited. I'm big time excited. I was just talking to my brother yesterday about how excited I am about Kentucky football. I think Stein's gonna get the players, and I think it's it's exciting, man. I
Yeah,
think
and when I was younger, the Tim Couch teams kind of made me love football, and they were exciting to watch, even though they didn't win a lot of games. I think Stoops showed you can win and be a legitimate team here, and if you put kind of that same offensive mindset and building a roster the way Stoops did, but have those offensive playmakers, I think you have potential to have a really good product that Kentucky's fans are going to enjoy watching, and I can't wait for it to get here. But anything else, basketball, football, Matt, before we check out?
I don't think so. I think we're just waiting to see what happens with this portal.
Yeah, we're on commit watch, so we'll talk to everybody later in the week, and go Cats.
Go Cats.